Welcome to the Podunk Polymath, the podcast dedicated to the sentiments of a secular, sarcastic, screwed-up Southern SJW and skeptic. I'm your host, Chris. Come on in. This is episode 62 of the Podunk Polymath Podcast. Thank you once again for joining me. Hope y'all had a super spectacular week. I just wanted to first of all tell y'all that I released a special. If you have the podcast on your app or whatever, then you know about this. It's the panel from Skepticon with me, Maddie Love, and Marissa. Mostly them because they're better, but I said a couple of things that you can judge if they're good or not. So give it a listen. Of course, if you were there, you don't really need to listen. And the video isn't up yet, but I'm sure it will be soon on the Skepticon YouTube page. So go check that out. Love it, leave it, whatever. I got some new reviews on the old iTunes, and I got my first 1-star review. So I'm not terribly happy about that, but let me read the other two first. Chris Watson, the title is Pony Friendly. Okay. By Thor Go Lucky. Chris Watson offers honest opinions on social justice, the skeptical and atheist communities, and life in general, and there are interesting and informative interviews. Okay, that's the first good one. The next one is Love the Show by Rebel Ox. Who'd have thought the South could have a voice of skepticism and reason? Indeed, indeed. All right, those are the two good ones. Now to the one that's a 1-star. Not as reasonable as claimed. I really enjoyed the show and found myself in agreement on many things, but recently found that the host has no hesitation in throwing insults at somebody he admits he doesn't know, even though he's had the chance, and that is as childish and unreasonable as it gets. 1 star only because that's the minimum. Oh, I wouldn't even use his name, even though it's right there in black and white, because you can go look for yourself if you want to. I can only assume this review is put up after the Stephanie's Vaughn show. I can only assume that he is probably talking about the way we talk shit about Seth Andrews. And if that's the case, well, go fuck yourself, because he deserved every bit of that, in my opinion, and it is my show, and I can say what I want. So, Godspeed, 1 star, that's fine. You do you, but I want to implore any of y'all who actually like the show to leave more reviews so it can counterbalance this douchepickle's 1 star. So I would appreciate if you could do so if you haven't already. I already have, this is 23, which is pretty good for me, but anything y'all can do to help me out would be greatly appreciated. This week in the pre-ramble, well, technically that was part of it, but yeah, so more sexual harassment allegations have come forth. I don't remember if I mentioned Louis C.K. in the last one or not. I don't think so, because it was Skepticon. But, yeah, he was like one of my favorite comedians. Now he can go fuck himself. I don't really have heroes per se, and though I'm pissed off, about, I guess, him doing that, I'm not like so attached to his comedy that I'm going to cry or anything, so... Yeah, y'all already know the story. He's whipped his dick out and masturbated in front of several women. He's now admitting it only because people are coming forward. So he's been doing it over a number of years, and people knew about it in the industry and they didn't do anything, which of course speaks to the huge problem in Hollywood and of course any other place where there's powerful males involved. Usually this happens, well, hell, anywhere as far as that goes. Women are free to speak up because they're afraid they'll be disbelieved, they'll be mocked. They'll be told they asked for it, or any number of other excuses. So this just is more fallout, and needed fallout, really, from the Me Too campaign and people coming out and telling their stories. So even though I hate that this happened to many women, and of course also it's been pointed out to me that it's making a lot of women go through this trauma again after they've already endured it, which I agree, it isn't a great thing. And basically, guys, to educate guys who aren't going to give a fuck anyway. Like, oh, that's horrible, and then not care anymore. Do the oh, I care, for a little while, and then they forget all about it. So, anyway, I can understand that, but we need to keep going with this. Any women that come forth are brave as fuck, and I admire them greatly. And we need, if they feel comfortable doing it, then, let them, I would never tell anybody to do it because I don't know if I had the courage myself, Hell, I saw Terry Crews came out and said he'd been assaulted. Terry fucking Crews, that motherfucker's huge, and I'm not saying, guys can't be harassed or whatever, but the point was that if a guy like that can come out who's perceived as being, tough and strong or whatever, then fuck, anybody can. This fucking whole bullshit of toxic masculinity and guys can't be emotional or whatever. Of course, that's a whole different subject. Let's not make it about men. It's majority of them are women. So anyway, yeah. And another one who came out fairly, I don't know, about a week ago, maybe a little less than a week ago, Al Franken. Oh, Al. Turns out some model, I forgot her name because I'm a bad person. Tweeden, I think her last name was. She was on a USO tour with him, and under the guise of rehearsing some kiss or something on some comedy skit, he shoved her tongue down her throat when she didn't ask for it, and then later on he acted like he was grabbing her tits while she was asleep, which is, not humiliating at all. So, and he's issued this apology, which, okay, good for him. It's great. It is what it is. It's a good apology as far as it goes. But he needs to go. He needs to resign. He's called for an ethics scandal on himself, which, again, that's about as good as you get, I guess. But, I mean, still, he needs to go. If we mean anything, if we stand for anything, as far as liberals, I guess, goes, leftists, I guess I would say, then he needs to resign. And there are people who are defending him, and they can go fuck themselves, as far as I'm concerned. And there are people who are slut-shaming her because she's been in Playboy nude or something and been in other magazines provocatively dressed. Because how dare she, look good in front of men who don't want her to be, I guess. Fuck that. Fuck all that. Fuck Franken. He needs to go. Yeah, okay. He made an apology. That doesn't change anything. And is it as bad as, Louis, maybe? I don't know. Does it matter, really? It matters what the woman feels. And if she felt she was violated, yeah, I'm going to go by what she says and not what your fucking bullshit interpretation is. Sorry. Not sorry. So I think Franken should resign. And I think anybody who's defending him are pieces of shit. I forgot to mention Roy Moore. Oh, this guy. He is, whoo. Of course, y'all know the Judge Roy Moore. Roy? Who the fucking cares? Moore, that guy. He was the guy who was unbenched because he refused to take the 10 Commandments down, then was voted back in by the voters because Alabama is full of shitheels. Now he's running for Senate, and a lot of women come forward to say that he abused and raped him and all kinds of stuff back in when he was, I forgot, 40 or back in the 70s or something. And several women have come forth, and of course he's like, bullshit, Washington Post, liberal conspiracy, blah, 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 whatever. So fuck this guy too. I mean, are you fucking kidding me right now? And people are going to still vote for him. People are actually going to vote for him more probably now because the establishment is trying to take him down. I'm sorry. Alabama and Mississippi both need to be nuked from orbit. Get all the cool people out of there and just get rid of them. I'm sorry. It's irredeemable. I don't know what you're going to do with that place. The senators, Republican senators already in Congress most of them are telling them to quit. So, I mean, that's something, I guess. But the voters in Alabama are all just all with them, And of course, even the governor of Alabama, a woman, is talking about voting for him anyway because, we got to keep it in Republican hands. Are you fucking shitting me right now? This is ridiculous. And it's too late to get him off the ballot. And even if he did, he'd probably run writing campaign. So I don't know what's going to fucking happen. I mean, if he gets there, they'll probably try to unseat him or whatever, or the Senate will probably vote to expel him, I guess. But does that keep him from running again? I don't know anything. I found out that senator hadn't been expelled since like the early 1800s or something. So I don't think they know themselves. So it's a big old fucking mess, and fucking men being fucking rapist gate or whatever. Like we didn't already know it, but now it's, just, oh my God, I can't believe it's happening. What are you talking about? Says all the men, even though every woman has known that since probably the beginning of fucking time. So, okay. Anyway, so that's what's going on with me, and I'm pissed off as fuck about it, in case you hadn't noticed already. So I'm not going to apologize, but still, it's fucked up. Anyway, on the palaver this week, I have with me Monette Richards, who is founder of Secular Woman, as well as the president of the Northeast chapter of Ohio's CFI, Center for Inquiry, of course. She was also a speaker at Skepticon. Well, she was at two workshops. Yeah, the one about imposter syndrome, as well as the one regarding how to do a lobby day or whatever, lobby your local government officials. And also she tabled for Secular Woman in her organization. So, yeah, she's awesome. I was told I needed to know her by Stephanie's van, and she was right. Absolutely a wonderful woman. Very fucking motivated. She's a go-getter. She knows what she wants, and she knits, which we didn't talk about. I should have mentioned it, but we talk about a lot of shit. We talk about what she did at the conference, what her organizations are about, fucking Mythicist Milwaukee. I mean, just all the things. Whisper camp. What's Whisper network? What's that? We talk about that kind of shit. We talk about Me Too. We talk about all that stuff. So stay tuned. Sorry this pre-ramble rambled a bit, but I'm just really pissed about this whole fucking Franken, Louis C.K., all these white fucking, it doesn't have to be white, but just these asshole guys doing fucked up shit. Anyway, on to the palaver.
Hey everybody, we're the Utah Outcasts, and we want you to listen to our show.
We're a rowdy bunch of super liberal atheists that reside in the state of Utah, who bring you current events and featured content on a semi-weekly basis.
Whether it's us poking fun at the religious right or ranting at the world in which we all reside, we want to borrow your ears for about an hour twice a week.
Hey, and don't forget to tell them the best part about it.
Oh, yeah!
The show's free for all.
It is indeed. So if you like free, we're available through iTunes, Overcast, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spreaker, Google Play, Patreon, and even in full HD video via YouTube. Give us a listen. You won't be sorry.
Have you heard the Habeas Humor Podcast? It's a new legal show with lots of thoughtful analysis.
That must have been like a desert fart of dry excitement.
Famous politicians, or at least people who went to school with them.
And then she says, have you met Barack Obama? And I'm asking, who the heck is Shakalama?
And legal tips. You can still be rapey if your dick doesn't work, the more you know. Disney can't sue me if I don't sing it. HABEASHUMOR.
Welcome to another edition of the Palaver here on the Podunk Polymath Podcast. This week I have with me the president of Secular Women and the president of CFI Northeast Chapter and somebody I paid to come on the show and to make me look important. Please say hello to Monette Richards. How's it going, Monette?
It's going great, Chris. Thank you. How much are you going to send the check for? Because, I'm unemployed right now, so I could use that.
Actually, you could, couldn't you?
Yeah.
We'll negotiate that later.
All right. I'm happy to be here.
So
it's because I'm getting paid.
Yeah,
so
woohoo.
It wouldn't be. Woo!
So first of all, why don't you give everybody just kind of a brief description of who you are and what you do?
Sure. I always have problems with these because it's like, who am I? Really deeply, who am I? What kind of person am I?
Okay.
No. So I've been involved with Secular Woman since about 3 months after or 4 months after they were founded in 2012 and became the president sometime last year, I think. And like you mentioned, I also run Center for Inquiry Northeast Ohio chapter, which, I discovered basically when CFI did their Women in Secularism conference is when they came up on my radar. And I went, wow, this is awesome. It was a time in the movement where things were really shaken up and women were really speaking up. And they were the only organization doing anything like that was focusing just on women. And then I discovered they had a chapter that met a block and a half from my house. So I said, I need to take that shit over. And I did. About a year later? I don't know. I was 6 months ahead of schedule. It was pretty awesome. So since then, I've been tossing up those as part-time things on top of my full-time job, which normally when I am employed, I'm an IT SQL programming geek. So that's what I do.
Huh. Well, I know what SQL is, so that makes me feel smart.
Yay! Oh, I love SQL. I once wrote the whole Dr. Seuss Fox and Socks in using SQL queries. It was awesome.
Okay, so that's super nerdy, but that's okay.
Sorry.
I'm okay. No, I'm just kidding. That's
it is though.
It's super awesome. Okay, so you first came to my attention via Stephanie Zvan, which I just now figured out how to pronounce her name. I've been saying Zvan.
Got it right. Yay.
she said you were somebody I needed to know. I was like, okay. So,
well, and Stephanie is always right. So,
well, of course, yeah, especially in this instance. So I was like, okay, so this is before Skepticon. So I went ahead and friended you, and you jumped right in, and I'm happy about that.
Well, there's a lot to do.
Yeah. So then I went to Skepticon and met all y'all. First of all, I saw you the first workshop I saw you in, which I didn't get to see the whole thing because I'm a loser and I sleep too much.
Well, I tend to do the early morning things because I'm one of those annoying morning people that wake up at 6 a.m. with "Let's take over the world."
No.
And everybody else is sleeping.
No, you'd be no.
I know. If everyone got up at 6 like me, we would have solved everything.
Oh boy. Yeah, except that some people do stuff at night. And you're asleep at probably like 9 or something. So.
Something like that, yeah. Those Skepticon really messed up with my sleep schedule, and I was up late every night and still up early.
Yeah, that can mess with you. So I got there halfway through your lobby day workshop. Why don't you give me kind of a brief synopsis of what that was about?
Sure. One of the very first things that I started organizing as part of CFI in Northeast Ohio was a lobby day. We call it the Secular Summit, and January will be our 6th year. I'm really excited about that. Basically, what we do is we have a morning full of speakers, and I'm using my hands to talk here just so you get the full effect. We have a morning full of speakers talking about various topics that affect our state, things that would fall under the secular humanist banner. It usually ranges from, we usually have somebody in the reproductive justice area, Planned Parenthood, NARAL, or even the local abortion clinic preterm. We'll sometimes have the ACLU. We had someone talk about gerrymandering last year. And then we have a person train us on how to lobby our senators and representatives. And then we will have already scheduled the appointments with said senators and representatives, and then we send all of our attendees on their way with bullet points and bills to talk about and key things to tell them. And basically, it's a big, we're here. We don't like to vote on laws that are based on dogma or bad science. Here are the kinds of laws and evidence-based facts that we like. So, please think of us. Up to, 14% of the United States right now is not associated with the church. So, that's 14% of your voter base right there, give or take. So it's really phenomenal to see the look of empowerment on people's faces when they come out after having spoken with their senators and representatives. I mean, just the glowing, oh my gosh, I did it, and I'm a part of the process, and it's pretty cool.
How many of these, I'm sure you have experience with this sort of thing yourself. So what are some of the most memorable things that you did for lobbying?
Well, we did, I like to think, killed a bill entirely. My husband and myself. One year there was a Senator Chaplin bill on in committee, and our senator was one of the people who sponsored it. And we didn't actually have an appointment with him that year because there was just no one available. But when we actually walked into his office to leave the folder behind, there was a ton of people in there because he had been, palling around with other people. And so he agreed to, take our folder and ask a couple of questions. So I brought up this bill and how it actually specifically stated that you had to be ordained to be able to take this position, and how that excluded 14% of his population and was a problem when it came to the First Amendment. And he actually looked a little bit embarrassed for not having known that part of the bill. And then we followed up with him 2 weeks later, and he assured us that the bill was tabled. And I'd like to think that that was all on us, that we did that. It may have been other factors, but still, it had a little bit of impact in there. Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't hurt to try,
Right.
I mean, especially with something like that you're really passionate about. I mean, people see that, people see, and people really listen. I mean, you can send emails and call them and all that kind of stuff, but when you actually show up, to their offices or whatever, and actually talk to them try to talk to them in person, that's a whole different thing.
It is. It is. It really shows a bit of a dedication because they make it so difficult for people to participate, because they have lives too. So they only meet Monday through Friday business hours typically. And since a lot of them travel, they're really only in office Tuesday through Thursday. So you're looking at, taking vacation time and traveling. Ohio's not too bad. It's only a 2-hour drive for us to get down there, 2.5 maybe, 2 if I drive. But I mean, when you look at like California and trying to get from various parts of the state to the capital, it's could be a multi-day process, and it's just very frustrating. So yeah, being there, and when we could do it with a kind of show of force, when we have people from all different districts in Ohio, my absolute goal is to get someone in all 33 senator districts and all 99 representative districts. It's a ways off, and I know that, and I'm okay with it, but it is a goal.
Hey, it's good to have goals.
Exactly.
Especially when you're you and you just have to go out and do everything. Quit being so active.
No, never. Because we have a bill in with the Senate right now, our secular celebrant bill, which it's our third term of introducing this. Because in Ohio, I'm totally taking over the topic, and I'm just going with this, Chris. So just work with me. In Ohio, the only people who can solemnize marriages, that is, sign the certificate and make it legal, are, some judges, elected officials, the superintendent for schools for the deaf, and ordained ministers through a church, which, as I've been saying, leaves out all of these people who are not affiliated with churches. That leaves you with either finding a church and actually, going through their things, or finding an elected official, and you're still at their mercy of what they say, and they very rarely make house calls. So our bill would allow anybody to register with the Secretary of State and be able to solemnize marriages. So that's our big push right now, and will be the focus of our next lobby day.
Why can't you atheists just stop? I mean, just leave it alone. Why is it that big a deal?
Yeah, well, they can give it up and see how big of a deal it is to them.
Right answer. And actually,
never give up. Sorry.
We have a similar law here in Tennessee, I think. I think it's most places, actually, now that I think about it. I mean, well, yeah. most more conservative states, I guess, like the hippie paradise California ain't like that.
Actually, in California, it is sort of like that. To be able to do this and not be ordained, you can pay a fee and take a training course, and then for one date, whatever date of your choosing, you can marry as many people as you want on that day. The problem is, every time you want to do this, you have to pay the fee and take the training.
That's right. You told me about that.
Yeah. D.C. has secular celebrants. Indiana and Illinois both do, because CFI successfully sued in both of those states. And I'm really hoping to avoid a lawsuit in Ohio. And that's going to be kind of my big thing, is, going to the committee and saying, look, we could do it this way, which would be a lot cheaper for the state of Ohio, or you guys can fail to pass this and we will have to sue you, and it's going to suck. So,
what do you think your chances are?
Well, of course we're going to get it passed, right? But I have secondary plans in case we don't. Honestly, we have a full Republican House and Senate and governor. It will not pass, and I'm okay with knowing that. But I'm going to try like mad to get it done anyway.
Well, we'll see. Hopefully it does pass, because it's just silly, really. It'd be one thing if, like, they realized the omission. Oh, okay, well, let's just put that. No, it's a whole big thing. They're making a big deal out of it, I think.
Well, and the religious lose nothing. Absolutely nothing at all. It's not like some zero-sum game where if we get the rights, they lose some. No. I mean, it's just that now we can do it too. And if you really think about it, I mean, in the state of Ohio, the only thing you have to do is sign a piece of paper. Tell me what is religious about that. And then tell me how important it is for you to be religious to be able to sign that paper, when someone can go online and get a universal Life Church, $20 ordination and sign that paper.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's pretty, transparent that it's about religious exceptionalism. Basically, is what it is.
Right.
They just don't want anybody else to have the same. It's like they think the loss of privilege is like them losing equal rights, which
what? Privilege.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, that's right.
No. Well, and you would think that the fundamentalist churches, I should say, would get on board with this because then the people that they, quote, don't want to marry would have more options and wouldn't even try to come to their stupid churches of bigotry.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that aspect of it. Why would you? Let's have a big gay wedding.
Right.
They're not going to be, they're talking about they don't want to bake cakes for gay people or whatever. That's got to be 20 times worse if they actually come into your church,
Right. I mean, they tried to pass a pastor protection act in Ohio, which would let them, deny people for all sorts of reasons, which they already can. You're not a member of our church. We're not going to do your wedding. It's very simple, but, whatever. They always got to have more and more laws on their side.
Yeah. Oh, well, we could talk about that all day long.
I could. Honestly, I really could.
But let's kind of move it along to your next workshop. Well, it had 3 different people. You, Monette. Yes, you.
Yeah, me, myself, and I. We did it, yes. Along with Jessica Chow and Stephanie Svan. Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
and,
oh, go ahead. I'll let you talk about it.
No, so this one was about imposter syndrome. Let me go ahead and tell you about the workshop that was your workshop. Yeah, let me go ahead and mansplain to you.
Please do.
About your workshop. No, I was only going to say I talked to Jessica as well in the last episode. I did the many interviews or whatever. But I'd like to kind of get your take on what it was about.
Sure. You also, you interviewed Jessica for an entire show, didn't you? No,
yeah.
You haven't? Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, that was way back.
Yeah. Okay, so imposter syndrome is this thing that hits a lot of people, especially women in specific careers or whatever. But basically, it's the idea that you are an imposter in your position and you do not really have the skills that people think you have, and you're going to be found out at any moment and dismissed or kicked out or whatever. The interesting thing about this workshop is the first time I took it, I participated. It was at the Ada Initiative camp, which Ada Initiative are the ones who created this workshop. And all weekend, this was a base camp that you could sign up for, and they picked the people who came. And all weekend, I'm talking to women who didn't think they belonged there, or because it was like an open source thing, and there were people on the outskirts of development. And they kept saying, I don't think I belong here. I'm surprised I made it in. I don't think I should have made it in. And then we're all in this workshop and they're still saying this. And it's like, okay, I think we all really need this workshop because you were actually chosen to be here. So someone thought you had the skills or, whatever requirements to be here. But so the workshop goes through a couple of different group activities for you to do where you practice writing and taking compliments. And one of the things that we kind of skipped over in that particular workshop that's important for the compliments is determining which people actually take compliments that deal with what they do for other people versus, just their own values or what they do for themselves or whatever. Because we tend to see women take more of those than men. And then the second exercise was kind of, I like to call it the expecto patronum exercise, because just as you're about to cast your Patronus, you're supposed to think of the happiest thought. And this exercise was think about the a successful moment or a happy moment for you, and then pick the values that you associate with that moment. And then it goes a little further to writing about the values and everything. So, yeah. And then the third one is a takeaway. It's a negative thought exercise that's a little bit more in depth that we don't do in the workshop, but ask people to they could take it home. So it gives you a few tools to actually deal with the biggest, when you're really being hit hard with your imposter syndrome, and how to get over those thoughts and why you're having them and the fact that you don't deserve it. So it was fun. Participation like that.
Yeah. As soon as I heard participation, I'm like, oh, Jesus, okay, this is going to suck. Because I always...
Well, that's what workshop means. I mean,
know.
Versus taught.
I know. I didn't really think... I don't know. I was like, oh god, it's gonna be like work. But I mean, it was actually fun, and it actually, made you think about what your reasons were, why you thought the way you did. Like, I have issues with that myself, and so especially when Stephanie contacted me about being on that panel, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
Right?
I'm like,
I know, and you talked about that while on the panel too. What am I doing up here? And it's like, wait till you get to our workshop tomorrow.
great. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, being a woman in the career of IT and not having any formal education at all, everything I picked up, about programming, databases, server administration, networking, all of it, I've learned just on the job when I needed it. And it has sort of that extra kick in there of, oh my gosh, who am I in this career? And at one point, a couple years ago, I co-founded an organization, Akron Women in Tech, which was going to be, designed about helping women pick up tools, so they can go into a tech career, supporting the ones that are already there, do networking, that kind of thing. And a combination of my imposter syndrome, my anxiety, and the fact that that was like the third organization that I was running at the time, and it not going in the direction that I wanted it to go, I ended up backing out of it, which just, I think to me is just like a huge example of here I am starting an organization to help women in IT, and my imposter syndrome is like, what are you even doing with this organization? So, yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, sounds like it. Well, I thought it was interesting the stuff you gave us to do with the compliments were interesting, I thought.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, not only just coming up with generic compliments, but taking compliments is at least personally one of the most difficult things for me to do. I knit as well, so when I finish a project and someone sees it, I feel like I have to point out all of the issues with it. Well, there are mistakes, or my tension's too tight here, or whatever. Instead of just letting them see it and they say it looks nice and me saying thank you. So, the compliments are really hard to think that you deserve any of them. So being forced to take them, no, you have to take 2 or 3. Then kind of gives you that permission to say, okay, this does apply to me. I can take this and I can own it. And then when somebody says this to me again, I can say, thank you.
Yeah, I know somebody who has a very difficult time taking extremely difficult. I feel like, look, just say thank you. Don't argue with me. And I do the same thing too. So we both have to police each other. Yeah.
I do notice that with you too. You will. What was it I said on the one thread the other day, that you are an overachiever in self-debasement?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Which is not on purpose, I don't think. I mean, it's just the way I am. But I guess I need to dial that back a little bit because it gets kind of old.
Well, as long as it's amusing, it's okay.
Well, yeah, I try to make things amusing and not to sound too neurotic or whatever, but it is an issue with me. This is something I need to work on. So
that's one of my phrases. It's something I know about with me, and I'm working on it.
Yeah, and also in the workshop, you gave us a list of words.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a shit ton of words too, let me tell you. And we were you're supposed to circle like which ones you think you identify with. Is that right? I'm trying to word it correctly.
Well, this was with the, think of the time that you really accomplished something amazing, and then what values do you associate with that time? And then this is the list of values: accomplishment, accountability, achievement, freedom, friendships, that kind of stuff. So it lets you focus on those things that you value, those, attributes or situations or whatever. Confidence. When you did this thing, were you filled with confidence? Then maybe that's something, if that's what comes to mind and you associate with this event that makes you really, really happy and proud, then that's something that you can shoot for and focus on for you.
Yeah, I mean, I circled quite a few just because I identify with them. And a lot of that, it makes you think about yourself, and it makes you think what you're good at, and kind of you can take it away from that. I mean, I'm pretty self-aware, so I generally know what I'm pretty good at and what I'm not so good at. But it does help you get that thought process kind of going or whatever.
Oh, definitely. When you can sit back and go, okay, these are the things that are kind of important to me that I can focus on and work on and make sure that I'm, living up to these, then it will help me reach these happy and proud and whatever moments. So.
Yeah. So you did that where, and I thought y'all did a great job on that one.
Well, thank you.
And I really enjoyed learning about this kind of stuff, and I like the handout you gave out too, because that was very useful. I think that's something that should just be handed out to everybody ever.
Right. And everybody ever who has an internet access and a printer can get access to them. It's free to download from the adainitiative.org site, as they developed the workshop and then, made it open it's licensed under Creative Commons Creative Commons license. So just you can download it.
You just gave up. Like license.
Yeah, it's a license. But it's really hard to go wrong with that workshop when doing it with the two women that I was with too, because they are both just pretty amazing people that really have their shit together and are a pleasure to work with and know their stuff.
Yeah, I concur. Of course, Jessica I already knew from before. I spoke to her on the show and have interacted with her on Facebook quite a bit. And Stephanie I just met recently. Well, I say that. I've talked to her only recently. She's been friends on Facebook for quite a while. And so I've always admired her intuitiveness and her fearlessness on Facebook to say whatever the fuck she wants, basically.
She gets an awful lot of shit for that. But yeah. It's fearlessness.
Yeah. So, Monette.
Yes, sir.
You do the Secular Women, or you're president of Secular Women.
Secular Woman is singular. I know it gets confusing.
Sorry.
Secular Woman is singular. Yeah, that's all good.
So why don't you tell me a little bit what that's about?
Sure. We are a national organization of men and women whose primary mission is to amplify the voices of secular women. I'm going into my tabling voice now. This is how I am when I'm in conferences, and I say this all day long. We have various projects. We ran Abort Theocracy, which is pretty much what it says on the tin. Under that was a project called Shameless, where we encouraged women to tell their abortion stories under, we will not be shamed for this. We've had a user blog salon site for a while. Our users also signed a petition to the SPLC. This was all user-driven to get a specific, a TERF website declared as a hate group. And part of what we do is the Secular Women Work, which I do with Stephanie Zavan and Chelsea Dufresne, where we did a whole conference 2 years ago, the Secular Women Work conference, where all of the presenters, it was all activism based, and the presenters were women or genderqueer. And it really was an awesome weekend, heavy on workshops and panelists and talks, because when you look at activism, you see that it's mostly, especially volunteerism, it's mostly women doing the work. So rather than everybody in their little pockets of this movement reinventing the wheel and learning as they go, we decided we would try to bring in as many experts as we could to share their tools and share the success across the movement. It was fantastically successful. We really had a great time, learned a lot, and from then we've done a track of workshops for Skepticon 3 years in a row. And any conference, that feels that they want workshops or help with speakers or anything along those lines, Stephanie and I are more than happy to talk to them about it.
Yeah, and I think it's awesome that y'all do that.
Well, thank you. So do we.
What does Secular Women Work? It's Secular Women, right?
Secular woman and secular women work, because we don't want it to be woman's work because it's not just woman's work. But yeah.
There's a horrible connotation.
Right. So it's secular women work on that one.
And that's I guess, how many offshoots are there? I'm sure there's quite a few.
I'm not sure what you mean by offshoots.
Okay, so Secular Women's, is that an umbrella organization?
Well, we don't have chapters or anything, if that's what you mean. We're not to that point yet. We don't have the resources to support people. I mean, if there is a woman who wants to start a local group, we'll give them what we have and whatever support we have, but we just don't have the grounding yet to do chapters. And Secular Women Work is just kind of a partnership that Secular Woman is in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's a project, basically. So.
But you're hoping to expand it. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think if we look at the history of conferences in the secular movement, we could see that a lot of them have issues of having not just the same faces up there, but all those faces kind of look alike in their white maleness, and getting a diversity in their lineup definitely helps. I mean, studies show that when you include women and you include people of color, everybody's more successful, and it's awesome. So, let's just keep working on that notion and go forward. Yay! And also, like I said, it's very heavily activism based. So we are pretty big on put your money where your mouth is. If you're going to say these are the things that need to be done, well, help us do them. Let's go do those things that need to be done. And here are the tools and how you can do it.
So I think that's important because, just telling people what to do is one thing, but giving them the tools to figure it out themselves is more important. It's more fulfilling, and it makes people more engaged in the project because it gives them, more buy-in. Like, I own this,
Right. Yeah, there's that whole give a fish, teach to fish kind of thing. If you want to go that way, or
I was about to use that. Actually.
Yeah. And lobbying is just one of those small things, one of those small ways that you could be effective, but there are, millions of others, and it's just my little area of expertise, which, what kind of expertise do I have? I've just been doing it for 5 years, so that's all. I don't have a degree in lobbying. I don't know many people who do. I guess, I don't know, what do you call that, a poli-sci degree or salesman? I don't know.
I don't think there's. Well, no, I say that, but they're called lobbyists in Congress, basically.
Yeah. I mean, they have to register and stuff to lobby at the state and federal level if they're lobbying for an organization or a company or whatever. But as an individual, you don't. You could just go and say, "Hey, look, I'm here to talk about what I like," because as I put it, the National Right to Life movement spends a ton of money every year to be whispering in our representatives' ears about what they want to see. So who's there speaking up for you if you don't go? Nobody. So go talk to them, tell them what you want. Otherwise they don't know. Voting is not enough.
Yeah, I think people don't, and I'm not very good at that sort of thing. I think, what would you tell somebody who's not necessarily one of those people who go out because they're kind of introverted or they have social anxiety or whatever?
It's hard. It can be really difficult. One of the things that we suggest and what we try to do at our lobby day, if we have somebody who it's their first time, they're super nervous, we try to send someone with them, even if they're not in their district, but just someone who can take over the talking points if they falter, or even just sit next to them because they're, a show of force and a little bit of security. And if not being able to go at all, then phone calls and letters still work. And if you can't go to the Capitol, a lot of officials have home offices too. And you can find out when they're going to be there and meet them there. And I know, a lot of people are lobbying. It's not, a sexy thing. It's not street demonstration or whatever, but it's highly effective and it's super important. And the more people that we can get to go to capitals and tell people, I'm an atheist and I vote, and, you're really screwing up with these laws, the better off we'll be.
Exactly. And like you said, lobbying isn't sexy. And there's a lot of things that one can do if they're not necessarily, predisposed to do lobbying or street demonstrations or whatever. I mean, if you're an IT person, you can help in that aspect, or if you make signs, or there's a lot of different things, but lobbying definitely is one of those things that seem to be very important. And I think there are certain people who do it better than others. Would you agree?
Right. I mean, it takes all kinds in this whole movement to do different things. So yeah, find your thing, find your niche, fill it. Just if and I start thinking, what do I say? 14% of the U.S. is not affiliated with a church. Could you imagine what we could accomplish if everyone just did something, just did a little bit, just a part, I mean, we could take over the Supreme Court. We could take over Congress. Look how many Catholics they have in there. We're just right behind the Catholics in numbers, so we could do it.
You're so positive. I like that.
I am, because if you just look, right now, word is hard. Right now, we're at, I think, a swing back of the pendulum. But if you look at all the progress that we've made, I mean, just from the beginning of time, people are better off. Period. Going forward, we're getting better.
Let me come back a little bit to Skepticon. What made how involved are you with Skepticon? How many times have you been there before?
Yeah, let's see. Skepticon 7 was my first year, and Secular Woman was tabling. And like the day before we flew out, Lauren Lane contacted me and said, one of our speakers can't make it. It was Hemet Mehta. He was ill. Can you give a presentation? And I'm like, sure. I'd never done it before. Other than I gave some 20-minute presentations to our local chapter on things. And I had to write my talk while tabling. But I did it. It was a very short thing. I think it lasted maybe 30 minutes or whatever. But for the last minute thing, I definitely got it off there. And I did a workshop that year. I did a workshop next year. And then, we started doing the Secular Women Work tracks. So, yeah, and I like the whole crew that are behind it. They're very cool. Secular Woman usually sponsors in some way, either doing workshops or donating to be in the program or whatever. I think we've sent people there on scholarship type things, not scholarship, grants. So, yeah, it's a good group of people in one of my favorite conferences. And I really just like the atmosphere that they have there. So,
yeah, that's the first time I've actually went, and I called it SJW Fest before.
Well, yeah, I guess you can.
It was kind of a tongue-in-cheek, but especially in the light of what happened at Mythicist Milwaukee, I think it's a...
Oh my God, what a shit show. Yeah.
Yeah, Stephanie had... In fact, I had thought about going before, but every time I checked back, there was no speakers or anything listed. I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? It's like a couple months out, and they still haven't put anything up yet. So, and I kind of forgot about it, and then I was bitching about Mythicist Milwaukee or whatever. And she's like, you ought to check out Skepticon if you want something completely different than that. I was like, yeah, but they didn't have anything up. She said, go look. So they started putting stuff up or whatever. And I was like, okay, this looks like something I might be interested in. And then when I checked how the drive time wasn't that far for me, so I said, fuck it.
Yeah. Yours was what, I think half hours. It was like 5 hours. Yours? Or how far did you?
Well, see, I went to St. Louis first because I had to pick some people up. So I went out of my way for that. But I could have just went straight to Springfield, but that took longer. But yeah, if I'd gone straight on, I think it's like 6 hours or something.
Yeah, it's not a bad drive. I mean, that's get there in the, one day, so it's not.
Well, I drove to ReasonCon. That's 8 hours. So
yeah.
I was like, well, shit, if I can do that, then I can do the other. So I was like, I'll go. And then, of course, a lot of, like I said, Mythicist Milwaukee kind of... I mean, I had been, because when I started the show, one of the things was supposed to be, one of my things was social justice that I wanted to concentrate on. And this conference seemed to be well suited to that. There's a lot of people that I have started interacting with online that were going to be there. And I was excited to meet them in person. And I knew there wouldn't be Sargon. So,
Yeah, definitely not at this one. And there shouldn't be. There shouldn't be at any conference in this movement. There should not be a Carl Benjamin, because anybody that is going to prioritize people in the seats over the it's just bullshit. And no, this is the kind of stuff that that Secular Woman has been about from the beginning, and that people like Stephanie have been fighting and facing from the beginning. Because people like Carl bring a huge amount of harassment with them, and I can't help but wonder, back when we were in the slime pit days, if the leaders of all these organizations and conferences and websites and everything else, and even, the bloggers and the podcasters had taken the stand then that it is not okay, this treatment is not okay, this harassment is not okay, and you people are just not welcome, how much of a different place we would be in the world right now. Would we have this whole Trump and alt-right backlash? Because they directly fed right into it. It's just so annoying and so aggravating. And now they're coming out going, well, now that you've, been associated with Nazis, now maybe we'll call you out. But, whatever.
Yeah, I know.
What do I know? I'm in the outrage brigade in the cheap seats.
Yay! That's what I was talking to Stephanie about, because I thought it was funny. I dubbed her the queen of the outrage brigade. She needs to get a crown and a scepter or something. I still need to get somebody who photoshops to Photoshop that on her or something. That'd be funny.
It won't be the first time she's been photoshopped, I'll tell you that. But
well, yeah, and not in that way.
I know.
And I've actually never seen anything like that. I mean, I've heard of the slime pitters, but I didn't really know what they're about.
Harassment is entirely what they were about. And yeah, to watch the women they drove out of the movement has just been pretty pathetic.
They drove people out?
Oh, yeah. Back in Women in Secularism 1, Jen McCrite was on a panel, and she blogged at Free Thought Blogs. If you look up Boob Quake, you'll check out her name and stuff. And she was the one who breached the whole subject by saying, when I first started on the speaking circuit, women reached out to me and started saying, hey, look, these are the speakers that the men that you need to protect yourself around, because that's how women do this thing. That's how we've done it forever. When I was in grade school, I remember other kids telling me about teachers that I needed to stay away from. It's just a part of our lives. It's what we do. And that brought down such a shitstorm on her head that she just backed out of the movement. They were messaging her father. They were it's just gross, over the top, childish kind of stuff that had a real world impact on these people. Melody Hensley, oh my goodness, the amount of harassment that she got. And that one, hers made it onto Fox News, and it just became this huge thing. And that poor woman has just been through hell and back for harassment. It's awful. It's completely awful. And these are people that we will not have back in the movement. These are people whose skills and passion that we no longer have, because someone thought it's funnier to, send you tweets hoping that you're going to get raped. So.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, that's real helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the divide I was talking about, was between kind of the social justice, I guess. Secular humanism is a better term I think.
Mm-hmm.
Between that and these, freeze peach atheist types or whatever.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, the absolute free speechers who drive me nuts.
That seems to be kind of the split that's going on right now. And I think Stephanie said, let them happen. Let these schisms. That's what I say.
Right. And that's, in the Pitters days, it was the deep riffs, quote unquote. And we were all like, yeah, dig that ditch deeper. Get them out of here. Move them out. We don't need people who are going to behave like this. NPR just did a story recently, and this is for all these people who say just ignore the trolls and ignore this type of behavior and it will stop because, in the past 5 years, it's totally stopped, right? But NPR did a bit on a study where kids were shown some like violent behavior. And if nobody said it was the wrong thing to do, they repeated the behavior. If people said it was the right thing to do, they repeated the behavior. If people said it was the wrong thing to do, they did not repeat the behavior. So unless there are consequences and unless it's pointed out to people that this is not acceptable, we're going to keep seeing it. And that's why I keep pushing for, leaders of orgs, runners of websites, Twitter and fucking Facebook to take care of this shit and own it and get it out of there and say this is not acceptable. So yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
All right, that's all I got to say about that. Anyway, yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a line. Of course, free speech is important. I don't think anybody with any intellectual honesty would deny that. But it's one of those things where people try to take it to the to the edges of, reality. I mean, it's just too much. I mean,
oh yeah, it's the idea that all ideas need to be expressed. No, they don't. They really don't. We've really come to a point in, the evolution of humans where we really don't need to discuss whether race is a factor in intelligence or whether women should really be equal. I mean, there are certain ideas that we have considered. We've pretty much thrown them out because they're bullshit. We don't need to keep going over them. Not all ideas are equal. And I'm really getting tired of being expected to have to, prove my existence and my equality in this movement. And just shut up and go away.
Basically, yeah. I totally agree with that. And I'm glad you mentioned kind of you were talking about the Whisper Network as far as women.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a segue we could talk about. Something that's been going on for a while now is the whole Me Too campaign or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And what's going on with that? I mean,
well, the Me Too is a little bit different than the Whisper. The Me Too kind of pisses me off at the shock and surprise that people are having with, oh my gosh, look at all the women in my lives that have these stories. When we have the numbers, that, hey men, all the women in your life, they have these stories. Why you need to actually make them relive their pain just so you can feel it and go, oh, hey, maybe there is a problem, and then act like that problem isn't you and your friends. And then the one that really, really gets me is we can have people who say, yeah, Weinstein was gross, Cosby was gross. And then when we get to somebody they know, suddenly it's, whoa, 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 whoa. Maybe we shouldn't believe all these women because now it's brought it personally and they can't take that whole concept of, women very rarely lie about this. So why don't we listen to them? Why don't we take their stories at face value and then go with that when it comes to people like Lawrence Krauss and, Michael Shermer and fucking Richard Carrier, allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
I know.
Richard Carrier.
Okay.
Suing the shit out of everybody.
Right. And I do need to talk about this. The fact that he is suing 2 blog networks, a conference, and a couple of individuals for writing about his behavior that he admitted to. That is the worst part. He admitted to this behavior and they wrote about it and he's suing them. And where are the free speech warriors in this situation? Why aren't they getting down on Carrier? I want answers.
He's a white guy.
And he's somebody they like, and it's against the social justice people. So, yeah, I know.
So I guess the Me Too campaign was a bad example.
No, it was. I just took it on a tangent, but yes.
No, that's fine. I mean, I guess what I meant, I don't give a fuck about guys feeling bad because they should have felt bad anyway. Where the fuck were you? And this shit's been going on forever,
Right.
And I don't think anybody should have to relive their experiences. I thought, when this happened, I'm like, oh yeah, you're just now realizing this. I mean, most people with any kind of, unless you've been living under a rock and just have zero empathy for anybody or women or anything, that this is like the people who say, well, what racism? I thought that was gone.
Right. Are we past that?
Yeah. So that was, I mean, I guess that's what I meant was that this kind of realization, and you're right, to make men feel better about, oh, look, I'm just so enlightened, but, this guy right here, he's cool. That's a small bullshit, made up stuff, probably.
Well, look at the progressives' reaction to Al Franken.
Oh.
Oh, she's a Trump supporter. Oh, that photo was touched up. Oh, it was, prearranged or whatever. It was part of the skit. I mean, anything they could to defend somebody that was on their side.
Oh, yeah, totally. And of course, they're bringing up the whole she's been in Playboy shit, ever like that.
Right, because once you consent to somebody seeing you naked, then obviously you consent to all sexual behavior from that point forward. Oh, what a crock.
Yeah. It's slut shaming is what it is, really. I mean,
exactly.
And it's the same thing with Melania. Oh, look, Melania's been in Playboy, or she posed nude or whatever it was. They were doing the same fucking thing. I'm like, look, you can't have it both ways.
Right. Right. You either have to not judge women, or, yeah, I know. It's just frustrating.
But I will say that some of the stuff that's come out, even though it's been painful, and I know that for a lot of women, and I can't say I could never go through that. So I know it must be difficult, extremely, like reliving some of these things. But that's why I got the thinking about the Whisper Network or whatever, because I'd heard that mentioned, and I guess I never really thought about it before.
Yeah, are you familiar with the broken stair metaphor?
No.
Okay. And this is what the Whisper Network is. Sort of every group of friends has that creep, and instead of shoving that creep out the door and saying you're not welcome here until your behavior changes, basically we treat it as the broken stair in the steps, the broken step in the stairs, whatever, and that people aren't going to find out about it until either somebody tells them about it or they trip over it. So if you're a new person in this group, you got to hope somebody tells you about it. Are you going to trip on that creep? So, and that's, the Whisper Network is women telling other women the creeps and their experiences and who they can't be safe with, because if they go public about someone like Lawrence Krauss, they get sued or threatened with lawsuits. If they go public about someone like Michael Shermer, not only do they get a ton of harassment, but they get threatened with lawsuits. If they go public about someone like Richard Carrier, he gets to keep going to conferences and then they get sued. It's a quiet behind the scenes, hey, look, this was the situation that I was in with this person. You're not safe around them. Make sure there's somebody else with you. And like I mentioned, we've been dealing with this since I was in school, and people passing on the other teachers that you have to watch yourself around, I had a geography teacher that was super hands-on, and we had to make sure that, nobody was left in the room alone with him. Because what are we going to do as kids? We've seen the reaction people get when we come forward and we say that this person did this to me, and, well, why are you bringing that up? What were you wearing? You just, want money as a kid, whatever. It's just, or they treat it like the Catholics did the priests, and they just move them to another parish and starting the whole thing over again. So, yeah. So that's Whisper Network. Was that a good enough explanation?
Oh no, I heard the definition before. I just wanted you to, because I'm a guy and I didn't want to mansplain it to you what the definition was, because I've never done it. Well, let me tell you what the Whisper Network is that I've never actually been a part of.
Right, exactly.
I wasn't going to do that. So yeah, this whole, I think it's brought to light, and like you said, it's like a bunch of guys. It's basically you're mad because it's for the benefit of guys, and then but when they hear about, oh, that's horrible, that's, we should do better, but then when it's somebody they like, they throw that shit out the window.
Right. That's where they draw their line. Everybody draws lines. We all have our lines drawn at some point, but they will draw it as soon as it is somebody they admire. Then suddenly, nope, all of those rules that we just talked about go out the window. Yeah. And we could talk about performative feminism too, which, I know Jessica had touched on before, but yeah, so whatever.
It's definitely, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't want to, I don't know. It's kind of hard. I don't know what to say anymore, because it's just, I've seen so much lately I've seen so many people coming out that you would never suspect that they would be anything like that.
Well, go ahead. I'll let you finish your thought.
No, it's just like, I just wonder why any woman would ever want to get with a guy again. You know?
Right. I mean, I don't have any heroes, so I'm not really surprised when the next name comes out. You know, some can be a little bit more disappointing than others just because you like what they do or whatever. But, I mean, it's just so inculcated that, I mean, when you look at even the responses to Al Franken's photo of, no, it was just a joke, you know, that grabbing someone even through their armor is just a joke, then we have a serious problem that they can't even look at that and say, why is that funny? Why is it funny that he's trying to grab her boobs? Who is this funny to? You know, that they can't even break that down and see that it's a problem because it's just so insidious. So, yeah, you know, I mean, and we deal with it all the time. And a lot of it we don't even see just because it's so around us. We don't even see it as abnormal. I had a point there. I'm not sure if I reached it or not.
No, it's fine. I mean, I just think I don't really have heroes either. So this hasn't really particularly done anything as far as, I'm like, oh, I'm so surprised. I'm just not. I don't know if there's anybody I could, except if it was like Mr. Rogers or some shit. Maybe. Well,
but do we need heroes? You know, I mean, people are faulty. And you just have to either, you know, accept their faults when they're not so bad that they interfere with you, or if they're actually harming other people, either make them stop or get them out of the area where they can harm people. You know, I mean, this is what we're doing. This is what we're about. If you're about activism and you're about secular humanism and you're about change and making the world a better place, this is one of the ways that you do it. You tell people to stop the bad behavior and you make them stop the bad behavior. And if they don't stop the bad behavior, you make them go away. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, yeah. I don't have anything to add because that was perfect. Get the fuck out. GTFO, get the fuck out.
Right. But we can't seem to do that. We need to, but Lawrence Krauss's science is so amazing. Fuck Lawrence Krauss. There are many voices, so many voices in the science fields that we are not hearing because we keep hearing these same male voices over and over and over. Let's get some other people in there doing that kind of science so we can get rid of his creepiness.
Yeah, I've been saying that for a while because I've been to quite a few in the last year. Conferences, and they're all the same white guys, it seems like. And Mandisa Thomas.
Yes, we do love Mandisa.
Yeah, she's everywhere. I think that's awesome.
She deserves to be everywhere. She's, you know, one of very few voices out there that people will bring forward because, you know, yeah.
She's a badass.
She is. She's a badass. And yeah, she's got a face and people know her, so, you know, she gets invited to a lot of places. So maybe they can keep doing that. You know, they saw Mandisa and they brought her. Let's look at some other people and bring them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm glad she's there, but I just wish there was more people that, you know, that's my whole thing. That's been my whole thing, is I'm tired of seeing the same old fucking people over and over again.
Right.
And I'm hoping that, I don't know, hope is... I have faith that that maybe they start finding other people who aren't some goddamn white guys. I mean, Jesus.
They're out there. They're totally out there, you know, and all you have to do is look around. And, you know, you see all these pieces written and people talking about why are there so few women in atheism? Where are the women in atheism? And it's like, we're really not that hard to find. I mean, shit, we got a whole organization based around it. Seriously, none of these authors have ever reached out to us and said, hey, what women would you suggest we talk to in this story? But they don't even do that. They just talk to the same old white guys in their stories, and they all sit around going, where are the women? I just can't imagine.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if you'd stop inviting people to a conference that basically endorses rape, maybe that might,
you know, that might help. How many women walked out of the audience when the audience cheered after, you know, Carl Benjamin talked about his tweet?
Oh, it depends who you ask, apparently.
Right. I mean, they didn't feel safe. Imagine that.
Yeah, so, I mean, and they wonder. And then they're like, well, you're a bunch of snowflakes. I'm like, okay. Why don't you just go somewhere? I mean...
Right. Yeah, we're the snowflakes. You're the ones who are complaining that we have to be all politically correct all the time, but we're the snowflakes.
That always is so funny to me. They're the ones that get more pissed off about it than, they build these straw men, these fucking oversensitive SJW types. But then you call them out on something, they get all fucking butthurt or whatever.
Yeah, I know. Somebody had told me in a conversation that we could, do this rationally or filled with emotion, and I kept talking to him and presenting evidence, and he got all mad, and I'm like, well, if you need some time to go sit and calm down, that's okay. It's not like emotions are a bad thing. Embrace them a little bit, come to terms with them, then we can talk this through. But if you're going to get so worked up that you can't answer me, go take some time.
Oh, I love it. I hate it, but I love it at the same time. The irony is so thick.
Right. And that one, believe it or not, was about an application being written for phones. I believe it's out in usage now for the atheist community to find what events are in their area, because apparently Meetup doesn't do this for people. And one of the coders involved in that project was involved in lots of kind of creepy stuff, but he had written a dating site for college students and then use the information on the back end to contact women, so the story goes, and he was made to shut the site down. Now this person is writing code for people to find what events are near them, and they couldn't guarantee me in any way that women using this app would be safe.
Wow, I don't know, you're such a cuck.
I know. I relish in it.
You're so oversensitive. Is that really that difficult of an ask?
Right. Right. But they couldn't give me that. And it's like, well, knowing that this person worked on the application, unless you can tell me that their information is safe, in some way guarantee me, then I can't use it, and I can't suggest other people use it.
I don't know. There's just so much. They're the same people who complain about having to use pronouns, and the ones who complain of Reason Rally. This is where I started learning about this whole thing, was Reason Rally. So many people threw a fit because they dared to suggest that you should use people's pronouns that they prefer, and that you not harass people in their code of conduct or whatever. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me right now?
Right. Really, you have to stop and think about where your life, your decisions have brought you, where you're arguing against a code of conduct that says don't harass people.
I don't know. I don't even know what to say. It's just so it's so mind-boggling to me that I don't know. Oh, we could do that, and that's something else we could talk about forever.
And if you go up to somebody and they say, "Yeah, my name's Edward, call me Ed," and you can accept that, why you can't accept I use he, call me he, him? I don't even know. That's more on you. I just don't even know the logic behind that. Well, I'm not going to call you the pronouns that you want. What is it to you at all? What's it mean to you that somebody else wants to use a pronoun that you didn't expect?
I like that analogy. I hadn't thought about that before. Calling somebody their diminutive, their nickname, or like call me Chris, not Christopher, or whatever. That's interesting.
Well, it's all along in the same thing, I just don't get people who have to be all, no, we're going to do it my way. Fuck you. Go somewhere else. Leave me alone.
Yeah. Just don't come. It's like, we're not going to go to a bar.
Okay. Yeah. I know. And that's how this should have been handled from the beginning. But, we have to have butts in the seats, and we have to make our money back. So we can't take a chance of ostracizing the wrong people.
Oh, and you heard about what happened when they said, oh, we lost money on this. They did a GoFundMe. They got like twice as much back.
Yep.
Ugh.
I know.
You want to see?
Go ahead.
It's just horrible. I was just going to say, you want to find the people not to associate with? Go find out who those people who gave to that fundraiser were.
Exactly. Take a list of all their names and write them down, because they should have lost money on that, and everybody should have just left them alone after that. But to actually give money to support that is gross.
Oh, and of course, lest anybody think that I'm saying go out and dox these people.
No.
I'm saying, I was being facetious. I mean, I wasn't saying go, because they'll jump right over that shit, claiming that, not that anybody really listens to this, but I'm just saying, don't literally go out and dox people. But I was just saying, if you were to take a list of those names, those would be the same people you probably wouldn't want to associate with.
Right. And I'm not saying, dox them or whatever. I don't really care what you do because your actions are on you. But don't harass people. Really? Even if you know their names, don't fucking harass them, because harassment is bad and wrong and not something we should be doing. It's not funny. It's not humorous. It's not entertainment. It's just bad. And why were you people never taught that to begin with? But yeah.
They're insecure white guys is what it comes down to.
Well, it's interesting because, in Gamergate was the biggest part of this. But even before that, and you could draw straight lines from Slime Pit to Gamergate to the alt-right, but in the earlier days of harassment, everyone's like, oh, they're just little kids. And no, these are fully grown people doing this. These are adults. These are people over 30. These are people over 40, and they are behaving this way. And I just, it's not surprising because I see that anyway. But yeah, it's not children. I think they know better in many situations, and then they learn that it's okay to do.
Yeah, like we talked about before, yeah.
Yeah.
Basically reinforcing negative behavior or whatever.
Yeah.
Or actually, I guess I should say not reinforcing good behavior.
Right, and not condemning bad behavior.
Right. Yeah, right.
Right.
So that's actually no surprise to me, and even though it's disgusting, it's unfortunately a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And I think internet kind of gives people this sense of anonymity and this sense of they can just do whatever they want that they would never do in front of somebody's face or whatever.
Right, and it's interesting that we use anonymity for that because it's not exactly that they are anonymous. It's what you said. They don't have to look them in the eyes. And that's the difference. And we need a different word for that. I mean, we've all been using anonymity for that. And I think that's incorrect. There has to be a word for the fact that you're removed. You could say it and you don't have to see their reaction. You don't have to face your own shame when, you look in their eyes, because that's totally different.
Emotionally distant, I guess.
Yeah. But there is that removal that makes all the difference. But yeah, I don't know. I've run into people who say this shit to people in their face too, and they're not welcome in my life. So why do you welcome in your life online, people? Sorry.
Balance. It's balance. We got to have balance. We don't want to have an echo chamber.
Yeah. There are some situations that I'm okay with that on.
That's what I always get told.
Yeah.
Well, if you want your echo chamber, fine.
I would like my echo chamber to be Nazi-free, thank you, for one.
Yeah, that's what's so funny. That's why I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't want fucking complete, douche pickles.
Right.
In my Facebook, it's mine. Well, I mean, it's my little space on Facebook they use to fucking spy on me and use my data for data mining. But what,
right, but it's yours as much as you can control any space online. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, why would, in the name of like balance or whatever, am I going to, let me go actively seek out somebody who's going to deny people's existence and actively work against their rights. Yeah, let me do that.
Right. I know. I don't understand why we think. Well, I mean, I do know there are so many people who, most of the people who think that it's great to keep working with, white nationalists or explore these concepts of, whether Jews are bad or not, are people who have no skin in the game. The results mean nothing to them. The conversation means nothing to them.
Yeah, it's privilege writ large, really.
Yep. And trying to get them to see that portion of it is one of the most difficult. Well, sure, let's talk about whether feminism is a mental illness or not. No, let's not.
Yeah, let's not do that. I mean, okay. YouTube atheism is a whole different subject we're already over.
It needs burnt to the ground. It really does. In a whole theoretical sense of just burn that shit down to the ground, and YouTube should feel ashamed of themselves for monetizing that. This is when you have internet spaces written by men for men, you end up with YouTube feminism, you end up with Twitter harassment, and you end up on Facebook with Black people getting kicked off because they are posting the comments that they get from white people. This is written by men, for men, and anybody, white men, I should say, for white men, and anybody else that's in there gets the big share of harassment. And suddenly, well, we don't have the tools to keep up with this. Bullshit. You just make it a priority. And they still haven't done it. They still have not made it a priority. I mean, I did see that they unverified some white nationalists, and it's like, okay, yeah, whoa, they lost their blue check marks, but, you know, they can still abuse people all the time on there, so.
Yeah, that's a whole... We could go on for a while, but...
I get a little worked up about this. I can keep going, you know, whatever.
Yeah,
I should have lunch, though, but, you know.
No, it's over an hour, so I usually do an hour. But I like these kind of conversations, and so that's why I didn't want to stop it, you know, unless I had to.
Well, I appreciate that.
All right, Monette. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you having me. It was fun being had.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay. I lost my train.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
You were saying thank you.
Okay, so why don't you tell people if you have anything to plug, what you do? Just tell people where they can find you in your work, whatever.
All right. Well, you know, you can find me on Facebook. Monette Richards, my profile is pretty much open. There aren't that many other Monette Richards out there in the world. Secularwoman.org is where you'll find the Secular Woman site. And we are in a process of a rebirth there, so slowly but surely it's coming together. Secularwomanwork.org is where you'll find the workshops and other projects that we have going on there. Centerforinquiry.net, or, you know, you could just go to cfineo.org is where you'll find our local stuff. And you will find me on January 16th, 2018 at the Ohio State House, pushing for Ohio Senate Bill 52, our secular celebrant. So if you are a resident of Ohio, reach out to me. Mo@FrogLabs is my personal email, and it's just the easiest. Reach out to me and tell me that you want to gather signatures for petitions, or you want to come to the lobby day, or you want to call your senator and talk about this bill. Hit me up, and we'll get you moving on this because we need all the help we can get.
Is Canton the capital of Ohio?
No, Columbus is. Canton sometimes thinks it is just because of the whole Football Hall of Fame thing, but no, it's Columbus.
That's where I got it. Ugh, Jesus.
And I tease Canton, but yeah.
Sorry, I just. Woo,
oh no!
I used to know all the capitals.
Yeah, back in 6th grade, and then when did you ever use it again? You know.
Well, I like to exercise my brain sometimes, but anyway. So yeah, I definitely put that up. I think I know some people in Cincinnati. Maybe they could make the trek up there.
That would be very cool, and I would definitely work with them on everything. We schedule the appointments for them, for their senators and representatives, once they sign up, so they don't have to worry about it, and we give them all the materials, and we train them, and it's very, it's educational, and it's empowering, and it's my favorite event of the year.
Sounds like it. You're just very gung-ho about this stuff, and I get energy vicariously through you.
Yay! That's what I live for. And that explains why I go to bed at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. Because people like you have sapped all my energy. No, that's a good thing. Take it. Run with it.
Vampires.
Use it. Yes.
All right. Well, thanks again, Monette, and go have lunch.
Well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it because being a nobody, which it's okay that I'm a nobody, I don't have a degree or anything. It's important then when I can do shows like this and tell people the stuff that I'm working on. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Well, I'm also nobody, so we can be nobodies.
Yay!
No, I can't do that. I'm not supposed to do that. I'm not supposed to do that.
It's okay to be a nobody, though. I don't think that's self-defacing. It's degrading. I don't think it is because, who am I? I don't have any training. I don't have any degrees or anything at all. I'm just this person in Ohio who's trying to get shit done. And it's important to realize that that's what I am. And I'm still doing stuff because then other nobodies can as well.
Fair enough. All right, Monette. Well, I'll let you go, but take it easy.
Thank you so much, Chris.
That'll do it for this episode of the Podunk Polymath Podcast. I want to thank Monette Richards for coming on and speaking to me. She's awesome. She's a go-getter. She filled me full of energy for about 5 minutes, and then, of course, my fat, lazy ass just, I'll go back to sleep because I'm useless. Anyway, I really appreciated her talking to me, and she's a great voice for the movement. She actually does shit, rallies, lobby day, and CFI stuff and all that kind of good stuff. So she's definitely somebody you should know if you don't know already and you care about social justice stuff. Anyway, of course, the music is by ... Dash. You can go check out their music at cdbaby.com/cd/... The logo new and improved by Jeff Prebig Jr. on Twitter at Pit Atheist, who I'll forgive for being a fucking Penguins fan just because he did the logo. Of course, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Google Plus at the Podunk Polymath. You can email me at podunk.polymath@gmail.com. You can find me on Patreon and become part of the posse at patreon.com/the Podunk Polymath. For as little as $1, you can have the joy and knowledge that you gave to a good cause, namely me. Call-in phone number, nobody calls it, but, I might as well mention it anyway. 615-378-POPO 7676. You can join the Podunk Polymath Podcast Posse Facebook group by going to facebook.com/group/the Podunk Polymath Podcast Posse, all separated by periods. You can go to the Zazzle store and buy a shirt. I think I have a mug. Do it. Zazzle.com/podunk_polymath. Of course, if you go to the sidebar, you'll see you can follow me. WordPress, I have 57 followers. That's pretty good. You can follow me on Twitter and see my tweets in the little box here. There's a PayPal donate button on the side, as well as buttons to subscribe on RSS, Google Play, iTunes, and Stitcher. There's a button for Patreon. There's a little box where you can like the Facebook page, and you can see the people who like me, because they're all awesome. Of course, they like my page. And there are recent posts, as well as recent comments. I want to thank y'all once again for listening. Sorry I rambled a bit, but, it's worth it. It's something that needs to be fucking rambled about. We should be fucking pissed. We should be angry as fuck. And men, you have to fucking just quit with this apologetic bullshit. Call out other dudes when they do fucking bullshit. When they say shitty things about women. When they laugh about rape jokes. Call their motherfucking asses out every day, all day. And don't be a hypocrite. You do the same. If you catch yourself saying some shit, you need to stop. You need to apologize and not fucking do it. Apologize ain't gonna do it. You need to fucking not do it anymore. I just, no excuses, no, anything. This has gone on long enough, and they've been dealing with it forever, and they're pissed off. I'm sure that their guys are, what? This has been going on? Yeah, it's been going on forever, so, we got to put ourselves in check. That means policing each other. So yeah, I'm going to call dudes out for doing some fucked up bullshit. Anyway, I think I've said fucked up bullshit about 20 times already in the show. Anyway, again, thanks for joining me. If you can give me iTunes reviews to counterbalance the douche nugget who gave me 1-star review, even though he couldn't give me less, then why the fuck even bother to fucking leave a review? Anyway, whatever. Okay. All right, y'all, I've rambled long enough. So until next time, y'all take it easy now, okay?